Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. We are continuing our conversations at EDspaces in Columbus, Ohio. We hope you're enjoying this series, and let's dive back in.
Well, hello, everybody. So it's great that you're here for our podcast, and we appreciate you being here. And if you'll introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Carol Crutchfield. I'm the Director of Facilities Planning and Construction for Beaufort County School District in South Carolina.
Thank you.
And I'm Ashley Gould, Director of Early Childhood for the Beaufort County School District in Beaufort, South Carolina.
All right. Well, great. Well, we're so happy that you're here today, and we have some questions, so we want to hear from you guys. So what does radically student-centered mean to you?
You want to go first, Carol?
Yeah, sure. Okay. To me, that is every decision is student focused. Like, I'm in the operations world. I'm talking about design and redesign and construction and all those things. And we tend to forget what we're there for. So for me, it's like, what is in the best interest of students? Is this decision going to help what's happening in the classroom? Not teachers, students. That's my focus. Yes.
And to add to Carol, what I tell teachers all the time is let's do reduction of teacher footprint and increasing student footprint. So the teachers' stuff and the teachers' area is really more in the office area. So in our school district, we have teacher offices that are connected to the classroom. And in the classroom, this is our classroom. So everything, if it doesn't serve a purpose for the students, then we got to make sure that we change it to serve the students.
And that goes to something I heard at a conference, and I wrote it down. I'm pretty sure it was at EDspaces. And it was like, we have to change the language of what we're saying about classrooms and stop calling it Mrs. Smith's classroom.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
the first grade classroom, and name your little group, the Tigers, the Panthers, or something fun. Right. So that it becomes the student space and not Mrs. Smith's room. And I'm not sure how we make that transformation, but I think it starts with words.
And I think it starts with welcome to our classroom,
Yes.
not welcome to my classroom.
classroom.
Yes, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, your purpose is to help teach students and their learning and engagement that happens in that space, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, so how does this impact your work? Being radically student-centered, how does that impact your day-to-day?
And I work with construction guys, so I feel like I'm always the advocate of, wait a minute, we're not building, especially with some of our safety and security folks, they like to go to the extreme of safety and security. I'm like, guys, we're not building prisons. We're not building schools. We're building spaces where children can feel safe. But their whole point is learning. And how is what you're talking about affecting learning? And it's not. So we're not doing that.
With my day-to-day work, and Carol and I learned this really early, when I got to the district office from the classroom, I realized that not always educators were making decisions for purchasing furniture. Sometimes it was construction and facilities and architects building schools. And so when I got to the district office, one of my first things was to come to Carol and say, hey, how can I get involved as the educator perspective of designing classrooms and building schools that really keep those students in the forefront?
Absolutely. And I love that too. And that perspective is important because you're bringing it to the district, and that's important to have that facet of knowledge to bring in, especially for early childhood.
Yes.
Well, and we were, I think, when you started, we were really focusing at that point on play-based learning. I was trying to say that.
Because when we play, we learn.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Play is learning.
And it just
It
made
is.
sense to me. And so we've tried to focus that. We kind of went away from it for a while, but we're pushing to move back to that and incorporating more, extended learning spaces and how that those spaces can now become part of play, no matter
Absolutely.
the age. It's not just early childhood.
It can be any age.
Everybody likes to have fun. I'm the big. If you come to my office, it is full of toys.
Fun things, yeah.
I have all the fun stuff in my office.
What we do is
Yes.
so important that we can actually practice that ourselves.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So we have to bring items and materials in order to truly have a student-centered and play-based focused classroom. You have to bring the right materials and furniture in order to establish that.
And teach the teachers. I mean,
Absolutely.
it really is sometimes about teaching the teachers as well. So they like the fun stuff, but they don't really know how to incorporate it into what they're doing. So,
And sometimes they just need to be shown a little bit, like just and encouraged to do it that way, right? So they don't feel like that they're, am I doing this right? How do I do this? Like it's instructional, but you need to use that in your spaces to help students learn. So we have a couple of questions you guys chose from our wheel. And the first one is, how do you ensure all voices, students, staff, families, and community are heard and valued during early stages of a project? It's a great question.
so we've done better about, involving the community. So we do it at different levels. We start with the School Improvement Council, and we'll go to them early in design before, the architect has even put, pen to paper, although they don't do it that way anymore. Just to ask, what do you want your new school to be? Or how do you want this renovated space to look? And so getting everybody involved early on creates a vision you didn't think that you were going to go that way. And we've got one big project, Hilton Head High School rebuild, that we have really involved the community. And I'm excited that they'll get in there next year. And so we'll see how it turns out if their expectations were met with the design. So we've gone back to them several times to say, here's how it's going, and here's what we're doing.
Yeah, because community stakeholders are a big part of that process. Because at the end of the day, these students that are in those schools are part of that community that will affect that community in the future, right? Whether they stay there or if they go elsewhere, but still, that's a big part of that buy-in and making sure that they feel secure and safe in that space.
And we even involved the middle schoolers because they would be the ones who would actually
Graduate.
go into that building when it opens with just, digital surveys with lots of images, which of these things do you like? So, yeah. And furniture was a big part of that, flexible seating versus, combo desks was what they're sitting in right now.
The other thing too is that, once they go into this school and it's open, it's their school. They designed this school. They walk in knowing exactly what to expect. I mean, granted, there is a transition period, but it's theirs. And what a wonderful thing that they don't walk in. And I've heard so many stories of new schools and people going into their spaces and going, well, why did we have this? They don't understand what it's there for. And so there's a lot of that disconnection, but I'm so happy to hear that you guys are doing that. It's great.
Another thing we did to involve the community, and Ashley was real involved with this, when we were even going out for the money for the referendum, we had a community project review committee made up of I think there are 40 people on the list. About 25 would consistently come. And then we talked about what our needs were. And, early childhood was a big part of our need. And so, they got to see the need, from Ashley coming to talk to them. And then we're building a early childhood center, that'll, you can explain more about what it's designed to.
I think a lot with the community, they don't understand that when we were building schools 40, 50, 60 years ago, early childhood was not on the map. Kindergarten was half day still, and not even mandatory. And so what we had to help the community understand is that the schools that we currently have the capacity could not hold an expansion of, serving more 4 and 5-year-olds. So
or we're designed for that.
or even designed. And so that's what we had to do, a lot of education on helping the community understand that, yes, there's a huge push for early childhood across the nation, but you have to prepare for it. It's not something we did an interesting renovation several years ago when we turned a middle school, or we turned a middle school into an elementary school for a couple years before we could build the new school. It was quite interesting, and we had to really come up with some inventive ways to add bathrooms to classrooms. And even making sure that we had to make smaller class sizes because middle school rooms were much smaller.
Right.
So we had to reduce the ratios. But we made it work.
Yes.
And then luckily we got a new school a few years later.
Yes.
But
It's what you have to work with what you have, right? And the fact that absolutely. And then you were able to do that is great too. So prepare for the new one. This is awesome. All right. So we have one more question. Okay. So what's a memorable moment when you saw students experience a newly designed or renovated space for the first time? I love this. This gives me goosebumps a little bit.
So this is something we recently did. Carol and I took a space in so it was elementary school originally. We then turned it into a birth through kindergarten school, so an early childhood center. And they weren't using their media center correctly. It was just kind of a space that they didn't really know what to do with a 3-year-old to take. It was a traditional media center for an elementary school. And it was just underutilized. It wasn't being used correctly. So what we did is we completely renovated it in a non-traditional way to focus on children birth to 5. So we added sensory walls. We redid the floors and to encourage more floor time for our infants and toddlers. We still have books and we still have access to all of those things a traditional media center would have. But by incorporating life-size Lincoln Logs and life-size Legos, children can really expand that problem-solving, curiosity, and inquiry-based thinking. All that happens through play. And my focus really was building executive functioning skills. So making sure that part of the brain was being developed and making it family-centered as well. So families could come in, parents could come in. We now do all of our family nights in that area and then teach families different parts of the media center every time they come in. So, yeah.
And everything in there is mobile, from the circulation desk to, the little
bookshelves.
All the bookshelves, all the little seating pads and all those things. Everything is movable in there. So they can redesign it every time, every day.
For whatever they want it to be, right? And that's the lovely thing about mobility and flexibility in spaces.
One of the coolest things that I love in there is an interactive sand table where children can, play in the sand. What we're finding is children with sensory needs or children who haven't been exposed to a sand table really get to get in there and dig for dinosaur bones or whatever and just really play.
Yes,
so it's good.
Discovery. It's
yes.
Awesome. Well, ladies, I really appreciate you being part of our podcast. It's been great to meet you both, and I just appreciate all you're doing for education. All right, well, enjoy your conference, and I will see you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this special EdSpaces edition of the Better Learning Podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and reminded you just how powerful student-centered learning environments can be. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone who's passionate about improving education. And as always, keep pushing forward, keep rethinking what's possible, and keep making learning better, one space at a time. We'll see you in the next episode.